I am thrilled to be here tonight. What an honor to be able to talk about your time to thrive. I loved this book. I circled things, I underlined passages, I've tagged pages. I've only just started. I feel like, well, first of all, I need to go back and read the sleep chapter. After a year of pandemic being deeply disrupted in my sleep, I need to get back on track. And the purpose and meaning chapter is definitely calling to me. But tonight we're going to talk about focus and prioritization, which I really learned a lot from reading this book. But I want to zoom out just for 1 second and talk about the big picture. Arianna, I just want to say that I have been so impressed at every step along the way in your career. And Marina and I were talking about this the other day. We were talking about you. You have been ahead of the cultural conversation and really helped guide us into a new way of thinking. Wellness used to be off to the side, right? We didn't talk about sleep. We didn't talk about wellness. We talked about them as separate from our success and happiness. And so talk about how your career has sort of drum rolled up to this moment, to the launch of Your Time to Thrive.
Well, first of all, it's so great to be with you. I love what you are doing and how you are bringing young women together to reimagine their lives and their careers without guilt. I love that.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you for reading Thrive, Time to Thrive, so thoroughly. Of course, there is nothing better for anyone involved with the book than seeing someone they respect underline it. So frankly, and for me, a lot of it came through painful wake-up calls. I was definitely not born wise, and I definitely made every mistake in the book, including buying into the cultural delusion that we have to burn out to succeed, until I collapsed myself from sleep deprivation exhaustion in 2007, started covering all these issues on the Huffington Post, and then finally in 2016 left HuffPost to found Thrive Global because I wanted to help people move from greater awareness to action and really the behavior changes that we need. And it's been great working with Marina. She's been an amazing colleague, and I can't tell you how great it is to be on this journey together and support each other and see the impact that the pandemic has had on this conversation. Through this forced pause, it made us all think more deeply about what we want, what we value, and how can we bring them into our life. And that's why we feel this is a really good moment for the book.
What has the last year been like for you? How has your life changed in the pandemic?
I hate to say that because this has been such a year of losses and grief. Losses of loved ones, financial losses. But for me, I've moved from New York, where I live, to my home in LA, where I am now, with my daughters and my sister. And I have been able to indulge my inner introvert.
Haven't we all?
You have to get really comfortable with yourself these days.
Yes, a lot of people don't believe I have an inner introvert, but I do. And it's been great not to have to travel, not to be on a plane every other day. It's been great to be able to work hard all day, but then be able to stop and read. And you have young children, so it's different. I think women and men, but working mothers with young children, frankly, have had a really hard time. And women and men who had to go out to work, what we call essential workers, have had a much harder time. So everything I say about my life is said with a full realization of how blessed I've been to be able to manage this pandemic in a way that helped me focus more on what I love and the impact we can have through Thrive.
I loved in your introduction where you talked about this book being an internal reflection, that a lot of the things that you have to do are external, but that this is about finding inner peace. Will you talk a little bit about, first of all, what is a microstep? And what I mean about the internal is anybody can do it. People who are surrounded by people who are alone, people who are at work. It's an everybody kind of thing.
Absolutely. The reason we focused on micro steps is that we wanted to make this very attainable. Whatever your circumstances, whatever is going on in your life, we want to meet you where you are. We want to make this, as we say, a judgment-free zone. There is no wrong way to do these micro steps, and we wanted to make the micro steps too small to fail. Like breaking them down into the smallest component of where you want to go. You want to start exercising, can you do one push-up? You want to start flossing your teeth, can you floss one tooth? I know it sounds ridiculous, but I promise you the science is in that it works. And our favorite, there are hundreds of micro steps in the book, as you know, but I think Marina and I have settled on our favorite, which is based on the science that it takes 60 seconds to course correct from stress. That while stress is unavoidable, cumulative stress is avoidable, and it's cumulative stress that's the killer. So if you can bring the 60-second pauses during the day to breathe, to stretch, to remember what we're grateful for, we really change how we end up the day.
I love that. And to your point too about this year turned all of our lives upside down. And, we all want to live better lives and live the life we want rather than the life that we just settle for. But after the year we've had, the idea of a big life overhaul feels laughable. Like we don't have the energy for it. So we actually started writing this book before the pandemic hit. And then when it hit, we were all working from home and our lives were turned upside down. The mission became even more personal, breaking it down into small, super attainable steps that are doable and don't feel overwhelming the way that a New Year's resolution is overwhelming. And people fail. They bite off more than they can chew. They judge themselves for not doing what they said they would do. And microsteps, as Arianna said, totally judgment-free. There's no wrong way to do them. If you fail one day, you can come back the next day and do it.
I love this idea of giving yourself power because so often these days we feel so powerless, right? It feels like, I feel very restrained by the four walls of my apartment, and I feel it instead of feeling big and expansive in the world, I feel very small and hemmed in. But the idea that I can have greater control in my space, over myself, over my emotions, frankly, control over your emotions. Can I teach my 6-year-old about control over her emotions?
Actually, I just posted on my Instagram an adorable video of a little boy helping his little brother deal with a temper tantrum through breathing. It's beautiful. It's yes, you can. That's really what is so important. We can help our children through the superpower of our breath.
I love that.
Superpower.
Will you talk about, Arianna, some morning rituals? Because I thought what was so special about this book is that you talk about the morning as being a way to set yourself up for the day. Will you talk about some of the micro steps that you do that sort of set the tone and center you in the morning?
So I want to start with the micro step I recommend to everyone, because after you practice these micro steps over time, you can expand the time. But start small, and I know we're talking to a lot of ambitious, driven people here. Don't start big. Most people abandon their New Year resolutions by week 3 in January. So start small and literally start with 60 seconds in the morning before you go to your phone.
That's so hard. Where's my phone? I'm getting itchy just thinking about it.
Exactly, but 72% of people go to their phone before they're fully awake, before their feet have reached the ground. And the problem, Anne, is that you don't know what's waiting for you there. It could be a stressful email. It could be a text that upsets you. So before you are even fully conscious, you've introduced the cortisol hormone, stress, maybe moving into the sympathetic fight or flight mode of your nervous system. And that is going to be with you the rest of the day. So 60 seconds, please, before you go to your phone.
That is absolutely my favorite microstep. It seems like nothing, but those 60 seconds, I'm now calling it my morning minute before I go to my phone. I set my intention rather than the world's intention for what they want from me. It is life-changing. Totally agree with Arianna.
I love, Marina, where you talk to me about habit stacking and about if you're brushing your teeth, add something on to brushing your teeth. I want to know what I need to do while I'm brushing my teeth.
Absolutely. So habit stacking is so key. So much of what we do every day is a habit, and so much of what we do every day is mindless, like brushing our teeth. We're not really using that time to do anything. So what we recommend, what I love most, is think of 3 things you're grateful for when you're brushing your teeth. Gratitude is one of the most powerful emotions for stress relief, for joy, for inspiration. And it's such an easy thing to do. You could do it with your kids, and at night when you're at the sink, brushing your teeth together, and challenge each other to do it. Challenge each other to think of 3 different things every day. It doesn't have to be the big existential life things like my health, my family. It can be like, I saw a cute puppy today. I'm thankful that I laughed with my mom today, like little things. It's actually a really fun challenge to habit stacking. All things you're grateful for.
I love that. I also want to talk about multitasking, and about how you talk about multitasking being such a drain on your attention and ability. And yet at the same time, Arianna, you said this is an ambitious group, right? And we all after a year, right, have big things we want to do all the time. But like, talk about how multitasking really drains your focus, and how do we get away from that itchy feeling that I need to be doing something else? Oh my God, did I call the bank? I need my phone. Where's my phone? Where's my, like, all of that chaos that you're creating.
Yes, I love what you said. We are creating chaos, and we are not more productive. So the first thing we talk about in the book is a mindset shift, because we're all brought up through this illusion that the more we rush, the more stuff we pack into the day or concurrently, the more successful we're going to be. And all the science and all the latest data proves this is false. So the first thing is to look at the science, look at the data. This is not my opinion or Marina's opinion, and realize that what we need to do is basically Marie Kondo our lives and manage our energy, not our time. Because the more you kind of try to multitask, which basically means doing 2 or 3 or 4 different things that require your brain. Habit stacking that Marina mentioned is perfect, because one activity doesn't require any cognitive powers, brushing your teeth or washing your hand. But if you're in a meeting and at the same time you're trying to listen because you need to participate, and you're answering emails or texts, the question is, do you need to be in this meeting? One of the things we're doing at Thrive is asking everybody, if you get an invitation for a meeting and you don't think you have something to contribute or something to learn, decline it.
I love that. Do I need to be in this meeting? No.
Yeah, you don't have to be in that meeting. You don't have to be in that meeting. So learning to say no to things allows us to say yes to the things that really matter, and do it 100%. Because if we do something 100%, it's such a different feeling. And, my mother used to say that 100% is a breeze and 99% is a bitch. It is, that feeling that you're holding something back. And it's true, whether it's a relationship, a job. Are you all in? If you're not all in, look
Yeah.
at your other choices and get out.
If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Get
Yes.
out.
Arianna, I did it today. I sent an email to somebody being like, do I really need to be in this meeting? They're like, no. And I took it off and it felt so good. And it felt so good. And another one, and another favorite micro step that I love to do is, and it's a mindset shift kind of micro step. Let go of something today that you no longer need. Like allow yourself to just let go of something. Maybe it's a meeting. Maybe it's a project that you weren't giving 100% to that you could really hand off to someone else, or a piece of a project. But it's just so empowering, like you were saying, like the control, like micro steps give us more control and something to celebrate. So if I let go of something, it could be negative self-talk, it could be a resentment, it could be just anything I'm holding on to. It's so freeing, and it frees up your focus for the things that really matter.
I love that. There's some questions coming in the chat, which I think are really interesting. And a lot of people are asking about how they juggle. And, we are in a moment of all life all the time, all work all the time. Everything is just stacked up on top of each other. Tell me the difference between being legitimately busy, having a lot of things you must accomplish, versus multitasking. There's a woman in here, just so you know what I'm talking about. There's a woman in here, Shira Miller, page 87, Shira Miller, who says, my days were spent juggling a busy full-time corporate job, starting with work on a book project I'd shelved for years, that she just had her days and her nights full. How is it different than, how do you manage having a big life, not playing small, being ambitious, but not draining your energy? What's the difference?
Oh my God, I love that question, because we need to recognize that the more we take time to recharge ourselves, as we say, to put your own oxygen mask on first, the more able we'll be to build a big life without exhaustion, without burnout, without as many mistakes as we all make when we are running on empty. I can really catalog all the mistakes I've made in my life, including hiring mistakes. And I can always kind of attribute them to times I was exhausted. I wasn't like fully present. I was missing, the red flags. You know how often in conversations or when you are interviewing somebody, there's a lot that is unspoken.
Do you, Arianna, in your life find that people still don't agree with you or don't believe you when you say that wellness is important to success? Or are people still embracing, especially sort of at the upper echelons, are people still embracing hustle culture, always on, work?
I think we're in a real period of transition. So there are a lot of people, including super successful athletes like Tom Brady, who talk about how he's getting 9 hours sleep and having no digital devices or TV or anything in his bedroom, etc., have helped him be able to win a Super Bowl at 43. There are many super successful business people like Jeff Bezos, who wrote on Thrive that he gets 8 hours of sleep because it improves his decision making. And there are also people who are kind of lagging behind in their understanding and may still say things like, oh, well, you have to go the extra mile. And, we believe that there are times when you have to go the extra mile. You're shipping a product, you're finishing a book, you're preparing a presentation, whatever. That's not the problem. The problem is, are you then giving yourself, or is your company then giving you time to recharge? At Thrive, we call it Thrive time.
What do you do in your Thrive time? What happens in the office? I mean, if we can remember the office, but what happens in the office at Thrive for Thrive time?
You're not there.
You're not there.
That's what Thrive Time is. Immediately following a sprint or a push or a late night, that's, you talk to your supervisor and say, I need the morning off, or I need the day off, or I need a long weekend, and you don't come in and you don't check your email. That's Thrive Time. And we normalize it. And that's really key, that companies normalize this idea of signing off, and when you're off, you're off. Like a lot of companies in Europe have, like, it's not even legal to have an email from your boss like on the weekends. Like, that's extreme, but we can normalize these moments and days and normalize it for ourselves. Like my Wednesday night I have an appointment, I can't be online.
So for the people who are listening to us, how do you set those boundaries, right? How do you say, I'm deeply devoted to this project, to this team, to my work, to our success, and I will do better if I take personal time off, or if I'm not at that meeting, whatever it is. How do you how does this crew that's listening set those kinds of boundaries for their own Thrive Time?
You said it beautifully.
What did you say, Marina?
She said it beautifully. I'm deeply committed.
Yes.
I'm not going to bring my best to this unless I take this time.
I don't know how I would feel as a boss if somebody said that to me. I mean, I think it's a little bit like you can't argue, but at the same time, if I'm the boss, maybe I'm like, listen, you gotta, like, I want to see this project all the way through. I think it's more, it feels to me like it's more than one and done.
That goes without saying. When we hire people at Thrive, we make it very clear that this is not a 9-to-5 job. Like, if you want a 9-to-5 job, if you want to chill under the mango tree, we're not the right company for you. We're a high growth, ambitious company. But we are a company that believes you can achieve amazing things without burning out. And if you burn out, you are not going to achieve things that are as amazing. So then, if you work with someone, if they're willing to go the extra mile, what work they're doing. They're not like a tabula rasa. They're not, a blank slate. So everything comes together when they say, I need time to recharge.
Arianna, do you have a system where to prioritize your day and to prioritize the company? Like, do you have rituals and a system that we can all do and follow in your footsteps?
Well, I think it's incredibly important as you grow as a company to have leaders with you that you can delegate and who can be, I'm not a micromanager, Marina will tell you. I only kind of micromanage when something is going wrong. If things are going well, you can set an agenda and focus on the bigger things. So I think learning to delegate is key. And it's very hard, especially for a lot of very perfectionist women, to delegate because there is the feeling that, but he or she is not going to do it as well as me.
It would take me too long to explain it to you how to do it. I will just do it myself.
Exactly. And you can't grow that way. You have to take time to explain, and you have to take the time to delegate, and you have to be happy with the fact that they may do it 60% as well as you would do it.
This is a conversation Arianna and I have had in our one-on-ones. I'm like, is this my one-on-one? She's telling me to delegate. So true.
And I know that about you, Marina. I know that about you. You're like, I'll do it. I'll take care of it. And it is, let's be honest, when Marina does it, it does get done pretty well.
It gets done perfectly, but then we can't grow because you can't expand indefinitely to take on more and more projects. So that's one thing. And the other thing is to be able to distinguish between what is urgent and what is important. Because there are some leaders that we are working with in so many companies, big multinationals like Accenture and Walmart and Salesforce. And you come across many leaders who act like firefighters. They're putting out fires all the time. So that's another thing that we give Microsteps in the book about how to manage your time to be able to prioritize with these Microsteps so that you are not in the state of firefighter and end up completely depleted and also making mistakes. And the other thing that's important, Anne, is that especially right now, we are finding that to be creative, to be able to deal with the constant change and anxiety of the uncertainty of the future, it's very hard to do that when you haven't taken time to recharge and refuel.
I think that uncertainty is definitely a cloud that has hung over this year in particular. And the idea of not knowing is a real drain, right? You have to go through every single scenario. I don't know if my kids will be back in school. I don't know if my husband will be able to continue to work from home. I don't know if my business will continue to be successful. I don't know if my family will stay healthy, right? It's all of those are a big drain on my energy, that unknowing. And you can't, it's funny, this year has really tested even the way we rely on ourselves. I used to feel like I knew how to make decisions, and I've been really tested about those processes for myself. I liked what you just said though about urgent versus important. Is there a trick to knowing, and do you take care of urgent things first and important things second?
Well, there are some urgent things that have to be handled right away, but in our mind often we treat everything as urgent. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And it's not true. There are some genuinely urgent things, but a lot of the things that stress us are not really urgent.
And what you were saying too about the uncertainty, that really resonates with me, because everyone feels, a certain level of uncertainty and fear. And the idea of micro steps, these tiny actions you can take and celebrate every day and add a little bit more control to your life, are so resonant and such an antidote to that. We can't prevent all stress, right? But we can prevent our stress from becoming cumulative and out of control. Yeah. And taking those micro steps for focus, for stress relief, for sleep, for nutrition, for all these important realms of our lives that fold together like a puzzle. It's so important to just, as Arianna said, it only takes 60 seconds to course correct from stress, and the stress of uncertainty is no different. So doing some of these micro steps can instill a little bit more of that sense of what you can control rather than what you can't control.
I loved what you said, Marina, when we were in the green room before, about if it takes 2 minutes. How do you, when I'm looking at a huge list for my day, for my family, how do I look at that list and decide what to do first?
That is one of my favorite micro steps for focus and prioritization. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. I try to do that. Finishing a quick task is so much simpler than reviewing something, putting something on your calendar, returning to something later to mull it over. So sometimes my coworkers will be like, that was so fast, you're so fast. And sometimes they just, won't hear from me for a little bit longer because if something really takes less than 2 minutes, I do it immediately. And it's really, really helped me to sort of check it off and go on to the next thing. And then with big tasks, break them down into small, manageable elements.
I've been bad about I've been flagging a lot of emails. I'll come back to this later. I'll come back to it later. I never come back to it later. I need to say like, can I answer this email? Can I just say like, hey, I'm thinking of you, or got it, I'll get back to you. And rather than I have to go through my email, find the thing, remember the thread, and I've derailed myself entirely. This is just basically therapy for me. Thank you for that.
Dan, you're amazing. I love that, because everything we're discussing is things we're all going through. And we are all a work in progress. It's not like Marina and I are doing any of this perfectly. But having these discussions, learning from each other, we would love you to write about the micro steps that most resonate with you. What are you introducing in your life? This is a journey for all of us. We are changing the way we work and live, and we haven't done that since the first industrial revolution. So this is a big moment. It wouldn't have happened without the pandemic, which has been a catalyst for this incredible transformation. But we are going to come out of it less frenetic, less breathless, healthier, happier. but it's a journey, and I don't think there is any human being who is doing it perfectly.
Yeah.
And I love that you are such a proponent of guilt-free existence, because I sometimes think they take the babies out and they put the guilt in. So working mothers are the worst about that. So that's why we believe that when you start small and you build the success muscles about any aspect of your life, it's easier to iterate and get better and better at it.
The secret of my success has been my community, the people who I surround myself with, and to be able to have a tribe of women who are devoted to helping each other achieve and succeed. Marina is part of my tribe of women, has really been the key to my success and the foundation when I get to that place of unknowing. And I think that if I was making my own micro step, it would be to turn to them for support, right? To know when I need to turn to them for support, rather than I'll just figure it out on my own.
And that's fantastic. And in the book, as you know, a very important micro step is to pick what we call an accountability buddy or a little tribe. It can be a tribe of one, of two. You have a much bigger tribe. But the important thing is don't do it alone.
Yes.
And even during these times of sheltering in place and social distancing, even if your body is on Zoom, it's important to have that. And also make your children your accountability buddies. You know, when you said, how do I teach my 6-year-old to take deep breaths and calm down? What about if you tell him, listen, if you see mommy upset, can you remind me to breathe?
Oh, okay. Yeah. I feel like I'm going to get a lot of reminders.
So great.
Children love to boss their parents around. But if you give him ways to boss you around, that then you can turn around and help him or her.
Already my son is like, put your phone away. Mommy, take the phone away. And I'm like, just one more second. I'm just sending an email. This is a little insight into my life here. Arianna, is there one micro step that is part of this process that has been sort of most meaningful to you?
Yes, for me, my most meaningful micro step is around sleep. Because sleep, which is the first chapter actually in the book, is foundational to our immunity, to our ability to prioritize, concentrate, create, and to our overall happiness. So the micro step for me is picking a time at the end of the day that you declare as the end of your working day. There is no real end to our working day. So we declare it, and we mark that ending by turning off our phone and charging it outside our bedroom.
That is a new one that I will have to work on, but I love the end of your day. Marina, how do you mark the end of your day?
I have learned from Arianna, and it's not easy, and I don't always do it, but set an end to your workday.
What do you do? Do you?
I symbolically shut my laptop closed. Exactly. You did the international symbol. End to your workday. I symbolically shut my laptop closed and say, I'm done. And it can be different times, different days. It doesn't have, you don't have to, and that lets me then recharge and unplug and recharge for the next day, because I know that if I work well into the night, I'm not going to bring my best self to work tomorrow. So it's a tiny symbolic thing, but it's
Then Marina, you got to tell Anne about the time to thrive before midnight.
Oh my gosh, yes. I have Arianna's voice in my head. She has a thing with going to bed before midnight, and I wasn't doing that. And so she told me at 11:45 to like start, to winding down. And in my head, I hear 11:40 thrive. So that's what I hear. Every night I look at the clock. I'm like, it's 11:45. It's my time to wind down.
That feels like a rule you have to make not only for yourself but for your partners, right? Like I feel my husband's stress, right? It sort of has to be a household rule. Everybody needs to shut down, no work talk, don't like be in bed by midnight.
Yes, and you need to help each other because there will be a day when you are more stressed, there will be a day when he's more stressed. But being able to have certain rituals, whatever they are, and start somewhere. If taking your phone out of your bedroom seems too big, can you start with one night? Don't start with 7 months, and then see what happens when you have real books or can actually really disengage. It's very hard to disengage when this thing is near you.
I hear that. All right. I'm going to try. I'm going to message you, Arianna, to be my accountability
Yes,
buddy that I've taken my phone
absolutely. And just tell your husband, to email me or text me if he has doubts about that.
Okay, I will do that. I'm getting the hook over here in the chat that it's time for us to wrap up, but I have loved this conversation. I've come away with notes in my book, notes on my page. I'm going to work on, I have my own homework in addition to the phone. I really want to focus on what is urgent versus what is important. That feels like, that feels a little mind-blowing to me as a reframe. So,
and I've been making notes too, and everything you said has been so full of wisdom, and loved being with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Arianna. So much, thank you, Marina.
Thank you so much.
Thank you to everybody listening.
And thank you, Anne. We are so thrilled now to welcome Joey Hubbard, Thrive's amazing Chief Training Officer. He and Arianna go way back. I'll let you say a few words about him, but he's going to lead a quick workshop. And I've been looking at all of your amazing questions in the chat. In the last few minutes, we'll get to as many as we can.
Thank you, Marina. I'm thrilled that Joey is going to lead our workshop. He's been a friend of mine for over 3,000 years. He's truly magical. And when I decided to leave HuffPost to launch Thrive, he was the first person I called. And it's meant the world to me that he joined, and we've been on this journey together. And every day he's teaching Accenture leaders, Walmart leaders, Salesforce leaders, but all of us at Thrive are also very lucky that he's always available to each one of us. So thank you, Joy.
Magical. Arianna, you have been incredible. Thank you so much for this conversation. Every day I learn more.
Thank you, Marina. Love you. Bye.
So everyone, please continue to put your questions in the chat. Joey, take it away, and I'll come back a few minutes before.
All right. Thanks, Marina. Hey, everybody. I'm going to give you a little taste of some of what we do in the workshops, but really focusing on this focus and prioritization area that we were just talking about. The challenge, and I spent many of my years and part of my career in really teaching people around this kind of productivity. There's challenges to this time period. And, when we launched Thrive, it was all about helping people manage stress, burnout, anxiety, really making sure they focused on prioritization and caring for themselves as part of their priorities.
Why doesn't he draft emails?
Hello? Oh, I thought someone was saying something. And so part of what I want to talk to you about now is like, how do you prioritize prioritization? And we have a unique time period because never in the history of humans have we looked at screens.
You looked it up?
12, 13
Did you look up all the times they've been around?
Sorry, hold on. Danielle, can you mute yourself, or whoever is talking? Thank you so much. Go ahead, Joey.
Okay, so that wasn't just me. I did hear something. All right. And so our brains are burned out in ways that are really unique. And when we look at screens for this period of time, the prefrontal cortex, smartest part of our brain, will actually discharge. So we've got sort of, I call it the trifecta. We've got the stress and burnout of uncertainty, which causes the prefrontal cortex to want to shut down. We've got the long hours and days and months, over a year now, of looking at screens, which can cause our battery, our prefrontal cortex, to shut down. And then we have what we call multitasking. And multitasking with electronic media, we now know is more impactful on your brain. Believe it or not, University of London found that smoking marijuana or staying up a full night had less impact on your brain than multitasking with electronic media. I'll talk to you a little bit about why, but understand that when we understand what our focus and our prioritizations are, and we spend time on those things, our brain is recharged. When we skip around and bounce around, our brain gets discharged. So how do we work in that environment? So think about this. What is your biggest struggle in maintaining focus? For most people, it's going to be around trying to do many things at once. And interruptions is what I would call that. We can be interrupted by a text. We can be interrupted by a ping on our IM. We can be interrupted by just checking email when we're doing something else. I don't know a call, a workshop that I've been doing where I haven't seen a majority of the people while they're listening doing some other work. What we know is that will immediately drop your productivity 40%. But on top of that, for men, there's a 15-point drop in your IQ when you multitask with electronic media. For women, there's a 5-point drop in your IQ. The differentiation, they found in women's brain, a part of their brain that they think anthropologically was designed to make sure they can pay attention to many things at once, including kids. And that part of your brain is the only part of your brain that gets smaller with use, right? So the more you multitask with electronic media, the smaller that part of your brain gets. So there's a point in time where you have it, you're not that bad at it, but at some point it goes away. For men, they cannot find that part of their brain, which may not be news to a lot of you. So, singular focus is what men's brains seem to be designed to do. So let's talk about some of the challenges. The first challenge is mindset. And you hear me if you've been on any of these calls before, it is the biggest thing I talk about, because what you believe is what you do. And making sure that you challenge the beliefs that get in the way of you having the success you want around any area that you'd like to be better in. So if you have a mindset that says something like, well, I don't think I can do that, you won't. And so you have to check whatever it is you believe about this. When you say, I can't give my full attention to just one thing, you won't. There's a part of our brain, the reticular activating system, that's designed to see, feel, and hear the world based on your beliefs. So it'll shut out anything that doesn't resonate. I can't multitask without sacrificing. I can multitask without sacrificing the quality of my attention. That's a misnomer, because we know the impact on your brain and on your IQ, and also being able to toggle between tasks seamlessly. Here's the thing, switch tasking. What we know about the brain is it can take as much as 20 minutes to achieve optimal focus. So if you want to get to optimal focus, you want to do one task continuously for at least 30 minutes. If you can do like email for 30 minutes, you're going to be better doing that email 15, 20 minutes in than you were when you started. So when you try to jump between an email and then going to a text and then being on a call and doing all that at once, none of those things gets to optimal focus. And most people spend all day jumping between tasks, which means they never hit optimal focus. And that's why you actually don't get as much done and feel more burned out. But as I mentioned, there's a 40% drop when you multitask, especially with electronic media. There's more to it when you do it with electronic media than when you're doing it with a variety of different devices. Now, here's the thing. When you do this consistently, and most humans have been, we're seeing that it's shrinking the gray matter. And so gray matter is really a challenge, because that's what you want to get stronger and thicker and bigger. That's where your juice is. That's like the battery power in the brain. So multitasking with multiple devices is impacting your ability to be at your best with your brain. Now, for many of you, you're saying, okay, so what do you mean? I can only focus on one thing at a time? Yeah, like the better you do that, the more you do that, the more effective your brain will be. Now, I know it's unrealistic for some of you, because you will do more than two things at once, but just be aware there's a price you pay when you do that. And if you do that consistently, like this is just how I work. I do my emails while I'm on my calls, and then I send texts while all that's going on. Your brain will start to burn out. And during this time in particular, without having the physical interaction that we get when we're in offices, it's even more critical to be aware that this is a problem. And so the great thing about this book that Marina and our team have put together is you can dig in on this. You can start to look at some what we call the easy micro steps to work around some of these challenges. I'm going to give you a few now. But again, the more you can do small things consistently over time, the more you start to rebuild neural pathways. And again, you do this unconsciously. You don't even realize, for most of you, that you are switching all day long. What you feel, though, is you feel the burned out. You feel the tired. You feel my brain has a hard time working as it gets later in the day. What's going on? It's not you. You're not getting old. Your brain's not working. It's just you're burning the battery out by the way that you work. So the more you can start to work in a way that honors the way your brain wants to work, your brain wants to focus. And if you give it time to focus on something and then switch and do something else and then switch and do something else. We did a study when I was in this field for Microsoft. It's a really interesting study. We actually we showed people who were working in buckets. So they did their email, then they worked from their calendar, then they did their, projects, and they had a meeting and they set it up. So they were in 30 minutes or an hour buckets, and they didn't do anything else during that time. They just did what they were focused on. Over the course of a week, that group saved about 11 hours a week, which equated to 14 weeks a year. They got back in the way they worked in terms of efficiency, productivity, and amount that they got done. So what if I said to you, I can give you 11 hours a week, or I can give you 14 weeks a year? You'd be like, yeah, let's go. Well, that's what happens when your brain has a chance to optimize its focus on the thing you're doing versus switching back and forth all day long. So let me give you a couple tips. And you'll see in the book, we have some role models here on what they do. Grace talks about focusing on one thing at a time. And it's really important because that idea of a microstep, or, James Clear says atomic habits, or BJ Fogg says tiny habits, they're all tied into this idea of just do one step at a time until eventually you get your thing completed. And that's really all a microstep is doing it over and over again until you create a new neural pathway, or until the project is done. James Clear, as I mentioned, has two that he does that really helps with the distraction piece, leaving his phone in another room until lunch, so he doesn't even look at it. That's one of the biggest sources of distraction, is phone. So if you can just put your phone away and just be working, you'll notice that helps. But the other one is, when you do have it with you, be on D&D, because what happens is there is a almost Pavlovian response when you get texted, or it buzzes, or an email comes in, whatever you have, you will see that they've trained you really, really effectively to go after that device as soon as it does that. So you have to be disciplined, and putting it somewhere where you aren't getting that, or turning it into D&D, makes it a lot helpful, a lot easier to do. And then Jen, who is the Chief Wellbeing Officer at Deloitte, what she does is she gives herself these little mini breaks. And it can actually help with focus. So you go a couple of hours on doing something, you notice your brain is a little burned out, step away from your computer, go take a walk outside, breathe fresh air, get some vitamin D on your skin, do something just different, completely out of the box, and then come back, and you'll notice that focus can come back. It's giving your brain sort of a refresher when you are over focusing or multi-focusing a bunch, and the brain just needs a moment. So a couple of tips, and these are our micro steps. Understand priorities for the day. Now, one of the things someone told me the other day is they had 10 things on their list, and they didn't get to all of them and they felt frustrated. Don't put 10 things on your list. Write down the 1, 2, or 3 most important things you have to do. Make sure you get those done every day. Everything else becomes gravy. You get something else done, write that down after you do it. But don't stress yourself about having to knock out a long to-do list. Make sure you knock out the 3, max 2, 1 most important thing every day, and you'll end the day feeling good about what you accomplished. So focus on a few things, but make sure you get those done. We talk about work off time. There's a workout time. There is a guy by the name of Cal Newport wrote a book called Deep Work, which I really enjoyed. Accenture gave it to me. In essence, when you think about the brain, it's more focused in the morning when the battery is charged. You have about 2 hours. Some people have more, where your brain is at its optimal before the battery starts discharging. That's the time to do your highly strategic, most important work. You do that then the stress of knowing you have to do that later is gone. And again, end of the day, no matter what happens the rest of the day, you feel good about having knocked off that time in the morning to do the things that were most important to you. Tell your team, tell the people around you, you're blocking off that time for yourself. One of the easiest things that can happen here is this idea that, there's always going to be something to do that we haven't gotten to. Leo talks about this. Recognize that you will never get everything done. That's a mindset reshift. And if you're never going to get everything done, what do you want to get done? The most important items. And that's how you want to see your day. Prioritize the most important things, and then know that you may not get other things done, and be okay with that. Sometimes the stress of not getting those things done can cause anxiety. So just be okay. I'm not going to get it all done. And then practice time to just meditate, just quiet time. That moment of just stepping away and breathing, eyes closed, meditating, makes a big difference. So take moments, take time for yourself. You'd be surprised how that can re-energize. Someone asked me, what's the best way to re-energize the brain for the afternoon? Meditation. That's a great way to do it. A nap, if you have the ability to take a nap, 30 minutes or less, you'll do a recharge of the brain. If you need a really big recharge, go the full hour and a half. Circadian rhythm's an hour and a half, so you don't want to wake up in the middle of deep sleep. So it's either under 30 or the full hour and a half, and you'll do a recharge of the brain, and you'll get more of that focus back for later in your day. So I want to pause. Any questions that we have here for the last 4 minutes or so?
Thank you so much, Joey. That was amazing. It's what I needed to hear in the moment, and I'm sure I'm not alone. We do have some great questions, and continue to put your questions in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can.
Can I just say, you look great in this red, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I don't think I've seen you in red before. I love you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Joey's noticing because I usually do not wear so much color. So this is an anomaly, but I wear color. It's an exciting day. Thank you. What micro step do you recommend most when everything at home and at work seems like a top priority?
Well, that's a moment to kind of sit down and really do a prioritization exercise, because there's something in your head that makes you feel as if you have a responsibility for everything. And it may just be taking some time to step back and go, what's real and what's in my imagination? You probably have a personality type that does want to take care of everybody and everything. And so that challenge is one in which you have to really almost disassociate, step back and go, okay, what's real here on these priority lists? And then who else can take ownership of these things? So to Arianna's earlier point, if you don't give other people responsibility, even if they don't do it as great as you can, then you will always have all of those things. And so taking 80% of what someone else might do versus you having more things than you can handle. So you have to just maybe slow down and really, if I could help you, I'd sit there and I'd be crossing stuff off your list. So you need somebody who's got that kind of ruthlessness to say, hey, let's get somebody else doing this.
Absolutely. And I'm noticing a theme. Somebody, Anna says, what do you recommend to improve focus if you need to study for a professional test? But I think everyone else, what if you need to do a presentation? What if you need to do something at work? Ironically, when we were working on the focus chapter of this book, I was crazy trying to multitask, and I stopped myself and was like, this is crazy. I'm working on a chapter about focus, and I'm like the cat meme at the keyboard looking at my texts and my emails. And I was like, no, I have to block off even 20 minutes of focused work. But I think the phrase, how do I get my brain to focus, skyrocketed the search in Google during the pandemic. So the question everyone is wondering, what are your top tips to improve our focus?
Well, and do that work in the morning. So there's a natural time when your brain is at its best. It will discharge about 2 hours into your day for most people. Mm-hmm. So plan your day accordingly. Wake up in the morning and do your focused work then. Or get a nap at some point in the afternoon and schedule your focused work after a nap. That's why Walt Disney and Einstein and all those people took naps, because Churchill, they did it as a means of recharging their brain for work later on in the day. So do it after when you wake up and your brain is at its best, is your ideal time to do your most focused work.
Yeah, I love that. I'm trying to get to a place where I'm a nap person. I'm not there yet.
Not there.
But I do your other microstep that you say all the time, Joey, which is a Navy SEAL microstep to improve calm and focus of box breathing. Can you tell us what that is? It helps me so much.
Yeah, it's a simple one that Navy SEALs found interrupted stress, but also resets the biochemistry of the brain. So you just simply, first step of it is to do a deep exhale. And when you exhale deeply, you start to reset the brain, and then you breathe in, counting to 4, you hold it for 4, and you exhale for 4. You do that cycle 3 times and you did a complete reset. You went from sympathetic nervous system to parasympathetic nervous system. But if you do it 10 times, you're actually recharging the brain. It's a great recharge technique. Be tough to stay awake. So it's a great moment to do like deep meditation. Give yourself 20 minutes if you're going to do 10, because you're going to want to keep going. But you'll find coming out of that your brain's really charged. So it's a great recharge technique.
And this is the last question. I wish we could go on. So many amazing questions and comments. Everyone's really enjoying these small tips. They're small enough to accomplish. What are some steps you can take to change your mindset if you notice you have a mindset that's holding you back? Like, I have to do everything on this list today, or I'll sleep when I'm dead. Like those limiting mindsets that we all have.
Well, we probably should do a whole that's a book. But one of the things I will tell you is you have to be willing to be wrong. That's the very first thing to changing mindset, because most human beings all want to be right about what they believe. So if you believe that this something is the way it is, it's really hard to change it. But to ask yourself, is this true? Am I willing to change this belief is the first step to changing mindset. And then once you kind of do that self-confrontation, the second step is to say, so what's the mindset I would prefer to have? What's the mindset that'll actually create the result that I really want in my life? Then you focus on that mindset. And all you simply do in the brain is retrain the neural pathway of the brain by doing the new mindset every time the old mindset shows up. Pause, stop, no, I can do this, and reset the brain. You don't have to do much more than that. And within about 2 weeks, 3 weeks or so, you start to notice a difference. Behavioral change scientists will tell you it can be as fast as 16 days, and in some cases as long as 254 days. But if you do it, you will build a new neural pathway, and eventually that will be your new mindset.
That is amazing and so helpful and so doable. Thank you so much, Joey. Thank you everyone at Politics and Prose for having us. This event has been amazing. Your questions and comments have been amazing. Please read the book, get the book. Let us know what you think about it. I'm on social media. I'm on Twitter, Instagram as MKHID, MKID. Let us know what you think. And thank you, Brittany.